Washington is destructive, harmful, is negatively impacting people's lives. I'm talking about everything from cutting library funding to firing air traffic controllers. I'm going to get a little emotional here, but they're not doing it with any sort of data. They're going in there, they're firing people, rehiring them, not knowing what the hell they're doing. They're causing generational damage to our country, to our democracy, to our planet. I have said from day one, it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. No one wants fraud, waste, or abuse. That's what we've been focused on from day one. I think this is a shining example of finding ways to do more with less. And I wish Washington, D.C. worked a little bit more like we do here in Illinois.
It's Illinois Secretary of State Alexi Giannoulias yesterday, after announcing he's opening up a DMV facility in downtown Chicago, and he was asked about efficiencies within the federal government from the Trump administration, saying it is an S show. We'll hear that again a little bit later on, but he says he hopes things run like they do in Illinois over in Washington, D.C. I'm sure tons of people will push back against that idea, being that Illinois is among the highest taxed states in the country, second highest property taxes, worst pension debt, and so on. I mean, you could tick down the numbers. Outbound migration, people moving to other states. So clearly, there would be some different of opinion there. But something that's happening in Washington, D.C. is they're going after Illinois. And in particular, we've talked about the case that U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has brought against the state over sanctuary policies for non-citizen migrants. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. If you missed previous segments, be sure to go check out the Illinois in Focus playlist as part of the Center Square here on YouTube. And you'll be able to find those conversations we've had about, all of the background of this story we're going to delve into now. So Pam Bondi becomes the Attorney General. One of her first actions was to sue the state of Illinois over sanctuary policies, the Trust Act, the Way Forward Act. These are two measures that passed under a Republican governor and then under J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat governor, signed into law saying that local and state law enforcement cannot cooperate with federal immigration officials. If it's a civil detainer order, they must if it's a criminal detainer order, but not a civil one. They also ultimately passed policies in Illinois that says local county sheriffs, they can't have beds for ICE anymore, and they can't communicate with ICE as to if they have a non-citizen in their custody. So Pam Bondi becomes the Attorney General under the Trump administration, sues the state of Illinois over these policies, saying they are a violation of the Constitution because immigration is a federal policy. So that was filed, and then we also reviewed all of the motions to dismiss from the Cook County government that was sued, from Chicago that was sued, and from Governor J.B. Pritzker that was sued. They ultimately said that they are not required to use state tax resources to implement federal law. And they also say that the 10th Amendment plays into this and give a whole bunch of other legal reasons as to why they feel that they should have this case dismissed. Well, yesterday, the U.S. Department of Justice replying to that motion to dismiss. And let's take a look at that right now here with Illinois in Focus. So we've got the filing here. Plaintiffs motion to respond to the defendant's motion to dismiss. And, sometimes the table of contents can be pretty revealing. So let's go ahead and delve into this. I'm going to go through, the principles of the system of dual sovereignty, federal immigration law, the challenged sanctuary policies in Illinois, Cook County, and Chicago. They talk about this particular legislation or litigation and the background of it. They say that the United States has standing to defend its interests, and those interests being secure borders. Those interests, as we've heard from the Trump administration, is to ultimately deport violent non-citizens and people in this country illegally. They say, the U.S. Department of Justice, that the sanctuary policies violate the Supremacy Clause. Sanctuary policies are conflicted with various policies of the federal government. Sanctuary policies impede congressionally sanctioned and authorized federal immigration law, and the defendant's conduct, the state of Illinois, Cook County, and Chicago, is not sanctioned by the 10th Amendment, they argue. So the sanctuary policies unlawfully regulate the federal government. And again, those sanctuary policies in Chicago and Cook County and the state of Illinois as a whole, saying that local and state police can't cooperate with federal immigration officials. They say that unlawfully regulates the federal government. They also argue that sanctuary policies unlawfully discriminate against the federal government. And they say the sanctuary policy restrictions on information sharing are expressly preempted by various measures within the law. I am going to go all the way down to the conclusion. All right, so a lot of legalese, a lot of case law, a whole bunch of other things that they are pouring through here to make their case in front of the judge. But let's get all the way to the conclusion here, page 38. Where are we at? 36, 37, and conclusion. All right, so for the foregoing reasons, the court should deny the defendant's motion to dismiss. That's well, there you go. We went all the way to the conclusion just for that. So clearly, this case is going to be forthcoming with more updates and details. This was just filed yesterday. The argument that the U.S. Department of Justice is making to slap down the state, county, and city's motion to dismiss the lawsuit, saying that the state sanctuary policies are unconstitutional. We'll update you on that, but clearly the U.S. Attorney General is really in deep on this because it's a pretty big issue in the state of Illinois. The U.S. Attorney General also announced that they're not going to be giving federal tax dollars to jurisdictions that have migrant sanctuary policies. So how's that going to impact things? Well, to defend against this in particular, you've got the Illinois Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, who is in court, not just having to defend this particular case and the tax resources that are being used to defend Illinois in this case. You've got the cases on the gun bans where the Attorney General has been involved in that as well for a year plus, 2 years. It has been 2+ years, 2 years and 3 months. So a lot of resources there. Well, Kwame Raoul yesterday was with the City Club talking about how he needs more resources, and he's actually going to ask the legislature for more money for his office so that he can go after these types of what he called overreach. He made the point that for every tax dollar that the Attorney General's office spends, they ultimately get back a lot more whenever they have settlements, like with opioid manufacturers or a variety of other litigants, so to speak. So here is Kwame Raoul a little bit yesterday from the City Club.
And the thing that folks are focused on right now is the federal, I like to characterize it as federal overreach litigation. Yeah, that has put a strain on a lot of our lawyers, but the other aspect of some of the acts of the federal government is, if you think about rollback for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau at the FTC, at EPA, DOJ stepping back from DOJ and the Department of Ed stepping back from civil rights enforcement. Who's going to fill the gap? State attorneys general. These are entities that historically we have collaborated with, but there are policy decisions being made, some illegal, but some maybe legal. We know, notwithstanding the lawsuits that we may file, that there are going to be rollbacks in all of those agencies. There's going to be pulling back.
So that's why Raoul says he needs more funds from Illinois taxpayers, because the Attorney General's office in Illinois might have to step in and fill those gaps where the federal administration may be pulling back, but also he needs more funds to be able to take the federal administration to court. For instance, he's joined with other attorneys general to go after the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and Secretary Kennedy there. Ultimately, they have a lot of issues with certain types of grants and how much money might be going away from research. So they're trying to funnel more of that money into research. But Democrats, including Kwame Raoul and other attorneys general, are suing
even more than
making their points that it's hurting research and so on. So we'll hear a lot more about all of this, and this is going to be ongoing for the next 3 years and 9 months or whatever. But final word here from Kwame Raoul yesterday with the City Club.
Even more than the sort of federal accountability litigation that we're engaged in is filling the gap where, in the areas where we could rely on federal regulators to step in.
A A lot more going to be said about all that. But go to thecentersquare.com and you'll see that you've got judicial warfare being alleged and saying it's causing irreparable damage. This is from a congresswoman, Virginia Fox from North Carolina. She says that, as of late, we're certainly seeing a slew of rulings by rogue judges that surpass their constitutional authority. She said that the judicial warfare is in the flesh. It is not remedied in a common sense and expeditious fashion. These exercises in partisanship will do further irreparable damage to the nation and to the confidence of Americans in our justice system. So interesting to hear that perspective as you've got just mountains of litigation. It's going to cost taxpayers. I mean, there's no question about it. It's going to cost taxpayers. But clearly, when it comes to the non-citizen issue, that's also cost taxpayers. In the state of Illinois alone, it's billions and billions of dollars. I was just pouring through some of the Illinois checkbook from the past 5 years and just did a search for a whole bunch of different non-government organizations. And just my initial cursory search, a dozen or so non-governmental organizations getting $55 million in taxpayer funds for, not sure yet. I'm going to have to find these contracts for you and get more information on what they were getting for, tens of millions of dollars. Some getting as much as $8 million plus over the past 5 years. So a lot more is going to come out about that story, I promise. So I'll keep you posted on once I get that all hashed out. But clearly there's tens of millions of tax dollars going to non-government organizations in the state of Illinois. But when it comes to who's doing things right, either the Department of Government Efficiency over in Washington, D.C., trying to find tens of billions of dollars in fraud in the past 2 months and reporting that online, or a state like Illinois that has mounting pension debt, billions going out to non-citizens, Illinois residents moving to other states, losing that tax revenue, and a whole host of other issues. Who's doing it right? Yesterday, the Illinois Secretary of State, Alexi Janulius, was ribbon cutting on a new downtown Chicago DMV facility, and he was asked to reflect on the efficiencies he says his office is getting versus the efficiencies that the Trump administration says they're getting with DOJ.
Yeah, we're doing it based on data, based on facts, and we're doing it to make the experience better, and we're taking care of our employees, and we're providing a better service, and we're doing it in an efficient manner where we're able to do much more with less based on efficiency. The Washington is destructive, harmful, is negatively impacting people's lives. I'm talking about everything from cutting library funding to firing air traffic controllers. I'm going to get a little emotional here, but they're not doing with any sort of data. They're going in there, they're firing people, rehiring them, not knowing what the hell they're doing. They're causing generational damage to our country, to our democracy, to our planet. I have said from day one, it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. No one wants fraud, waste, or abuse. That's what we've been focused on from day one. I think this is a shining example of finding ways to do more with less. And I wish Washington, D.C. worked a little bit more like we do here in Illinois.
Others may adamantly disagree when it comes to, should other governing bodies do what happens in Illinois. I'll leave that for you to decide. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning for the live show. Join the live chats. Catch the clips and the segments at The Center Square on YouTube. Get the newsletter at thecentersquare.com. And get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus and you'll find us.